Welcome to Mystery Date, where we dive into the weird, the wild, and the downright puzzling. While our podcast is primarily for entertainment with plenty of laughs along the way, we occasionally discuss serious and sensitive topics. Some content may not be suitable for all listeners, so discretion is advised.
November 1966, Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Four friends are driving a dark back road when they see it. 7 feet tall, wings spread wide, eyes glowing red. Then it's airborne, chasing their car at over 100 miles an hour. Within days, the town is buzzing. More than 100 sightings follow, and then, just as suddenly, they stop. The final report? The day the Silver Bridge collapses, killing 46 people. Coincidence? Omen? Or something far stranger? Today, we unravel the mystery of the Mothman.
I'm Christian.
I'm Kate. Welcome to Mystery Date.
It's date night, meaning we get to talk about all things mysterious and weird.
This season is called Into the Woods, and it involves mysteries surrounding woods, jungles, and forests all around our world.
Tonight's mystery is the elusive, fascinating, and some would say sexy Mothman.
Get comfy, grab your favorite drink, and let's dive in.
You said let's dive in instead of let's start the show.
I noticed as soon as it left my mouth, and then I immediately thought, wow, that was weird. Where did that come from?
Something new, you know? Every time we got to spice it up.
Going off script. Look out, people. This is how you keep the mystery alive in a long-term relationship.
Exactly. You just throw in random quips every now and again. So this is kind of a special episode. A lot of people love Mothman, have a lot of fascination with him, me included, but that's been kind of recent. So normally I'd ask you, what do you know about blank mystery? But tonight I think you might know a little bit more than usual.
Yeah, I will say, until this year, I did not know much about Mothman other than he is this cryptic, some would say paranormal or supernatural or even alien creature-esque human that is half moth, half man, and he's large. He's not like the size of a moth. He's like a very tall man.
I would love it if he was the size of a moth and all
so
of
like
this.
I knew that, and I know a couple of my friends have always been like, "Oh my god, yeah, Mothman's the best. Mothman's sexy. Like, I want to go meet Mothman."
Shout out Julia.
Yeah, but so like I've heard of him, but now I know a lot more.
Well, and there's a reason for that. We just we'll talk about it more in Free Talk, but to cap it off, we just recently got back from Mothman Festival in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So that's pretty cool. We got to see and go to the heart of it all, really.
Yeah, it was super cool. We'll talk more about it. Maybe have a little bonus content episode, just something short, kind of going over more of it. But yeah, I mean, to put it shortly, it was really cool. It was like a type of Comic-Con or music festival. And it was really interesting. It was neat. We got to see the Mothman statue. There was tons of people dressed up, lots of fun merch, good food. It was a good time.
It was fun. So we'll dive right into it then. Tonight we're going to cover just pretty much the origin of Mothman, some sightings of Mothman, maybe some stories that include the man himself, and then we'll dive into a little bit more of the pop culture that kind of blew up around him and the festival and all of that stuff. So let's get into the origin for those who don't know much about the myth himself. The story of Mothman didn't come out of nowhere. To understand why the legend took hold so fiercely, we need to step back into the world of 1960s Point Pleasant, West Virginia. We've been there. A lot of times in these episodes, we're like, we have no idea where that is.
We've been there and we can pronounce it correctly.
Exactly, yes. A place of quiet streets, tight-knit families, and a landscape that could swing from postcard pretty to unsettling eerie depending on the light. And I kind of agree with that after being there. There are parts of that town that you're like, this is like the classic postcard almost image of a Midwestern town. But I could see it with it being kind of deep in the woods, like the way it is, getting kind of a weird, unsettling vibe at night.
I was going to say, or if you see it not during peak tourism festival season, like we saw it while there was all these things going on, all these people are in town. I wonder what it's like in the dead of winter when you're walking alone down the street and you don't hear or see another soul.
Yeah, it's probably a little spooky, especially for the kids.
Yeah, it's probably a little off-putting.
You know that high school or whatever school is around there, they've got to have some
fun,
some like ritual,
legends,
something going on involving Mothman. You just know it.
Yeah, some little hazing or something with younger students, like some urban legend stuff for sure.
So Point Pleasant sits at the confluence of the Ohio and Kanawha rivers, bordered by thick woods and rolling farmland and old industrial sites. In the early 20th century, it was a hub for river trade and manufacturing. But by the mid-1960s, the town's heyday was waning, and one of its most haunting landmarks was the McClintock Wildlife Management Area, better known locally as the TNT Area. The TNT area was a relic of World War II. Built in the early 1940s, it was home to a massive munitions factory that produced explosives for the war effort. Hundreds of concrete igloos were scattered across the property, connected by a web of narrow roads and hidden by dense foliage. After the war, the site was abandoned and pretty much left to the elements. Locals whispered about the place being contaminated with leftover chemicals, and they also complained about strange smells and strange lights coming from the area. There was also rumors of shadows moving through the trees when no one was around, just a lot of spooky stuff like that.
Yeah, it sounds like the Montauk Project.
It does. This whole TNT area, when we were there, like at Point Pleasant, we didn't actually go on the TNT bus tours or do anything really in that specific area, but from all the imagery and photos that were laid around, it gives me that Montauk Project or Camp Hero kind of vibe, for sure. Except this one's just, I'm pretty sure utterly abandoned. Like I could be wrong. We didn't go there, but I don't think it's like a park as much as Camp Hero is now, where they just pretty much sealed everything up and were like, no, you can come picnic here.
Yeah.
It was against this backdrop that the first known sighting of what would become known as the Mothman took place. And it wasn't in Point Pleasant itself, but in the small town of Clendenin, about 90 miles away. On November 12th, 1966, 5 men were digging a grave in a cemetery when a large man-shaped figure with wings flew directly over their heads. They described it as brown with a wingspan unlike any other bird they've seen. The incident was odd, but with no clear evidence, it stayed a local curiosity, just something that remained in the back of their heads for a while. Like, hey, you remember that thing we kind of saw? Yeah, I don't really know what that was, but not much we can really do about it. 3 days later, on the night of November 15th, the legend truly began. Roger and Linda Scarberry, along with Steve and Mary Mallet, were out for a drive, and it was late, the roads were quiet, and they were passing through the TNT area when their headlights caught something standing near the North Point power plant. What they saw froze them in place. A creature roughly 7 feet tall, with broad wings folded behind it and 2 glowing red eyes set high on his chest. The eyes seemed to reflect the light, but witnesses swore they also emitted their own eerie glow. Which you can already see, if you know anything about Mothman or have seen the Mothman statue, that the description of this has kind of changed a little bit. This looks like a moth with its eyes kind of on its chest. It has its wings. It's almost just like this big brown blob. What we have now, like you can see in our art, is like a man. Like
they've given him a 6-pack.
He has like he's just a man with wings.
He's just a man with super long, like claw-like fingernails and moth wings, and his eyes happen to be red.
Yeah. End of story.
But the actual original sightings are describing more of a creature-esque.
Yeah, it's definitely not as sexy as what he is today.
It's not like if they were gonna turn Mothman into a Marvel superhero and cast that film.
That's exactly what we have now.
That's what we've turned him into, which like low key here for it.
Yeah. 100%.
That's what we've turned Bigfoot into as well.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we'll shout it out again at the end, but Bigfoot merch. We announced it on our socials, but we're rocking it right now, rocking some of the merch we got. Again, we'll talk about it more at the end, but just a nice little plug there with Bigfoot. Yeah, expect some nice, fun modeling photos from us. So back to these couples in the car. They ended up speeding off, but whatever was chasing them took flight and it continued to pursue them. According to their report, the creature kept pace with their car even as they pushed speeds over 100 miles an hour.
I cannot imagine driving that fast on those roads.
Yeah, what the? I didn't even think about that.
I don't know.
Oh my God.
I don't know how many of you out there are from or have been to this like Midwest South part of America, like over here in Ohio, in in Ohio, in West Virginia, Tennessee, the Carolinas,
Appalachia, really,
yeah,
like that, just this long stretch.
All of this, like near the East Coast over here, we've got this long stretch from top to bottom of America of just the most windy roads ever. They're going up and down hill the whole time, and not just hills, but like full mountains. So the altitude will raise and drop so fast. Your ears are popping painfully. Like
you're on like a downward grade for
and even if
45
you're not
minutes.
even if you're not on a highway and you're on one of these back roads, often the speed limit is still like 50, 55. No one can go that fast because there's a 90-degree, if not tighter, U-turn of a curve every 30 feet on the road. Like they're so windy. I cannot imagine trying to go fast to outrun some sort of moth creature. How did they even do that?
I mean, on our road trips recently, I think the fastest I got was like 91. And that was just like with the flow of traffic because everybody was flying down on our way to Florida. When I'm going 91, I don't feel that safe on a straight route. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But like, I don't think I would be able to have gotten to 100 miles an hour to outrun this.
That's what I was saying. I'm like, look, like, this might just be the cynic in me talking because I always speak up. But I'm like, it kind of sounds like these people are liars from the get-go. Like, I'm sorry, you're telling me you were doing more than 100 miles an hour on these roads?
In the 60s?
In the 60s, too, in those cars.
I feel like your car would have just exploded.
They don't have today's, like, sports car or something. Like, it's in the 60s. You're going over 100 miles an hour on probably, like, brick and dirt roads back then. Honestly, they probably weren't even as good of roads as they have now.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
And you're telling me you went over 100 miles an hour and you didn't crash and all die? Someone's exaggerating somewhere. It's all I'm saying.
Maybe. It's the 60s. I don't want to put anything on anybody, but maybe some psychedelics or something, a little mind play or something was going on.
It felt like over 100 miles an hour.
And that they were being chased by a creature, but maybe it was a moth and they never moved.
It's like the episode of SpongeBob when a moth lands on their little like space helmet of like water tank thing.
Why am I not remembering this?
And they're freaking out. It's like, because
wait, are they in Sandy's? This is.
I think they're at Sandy's,
Okay,
or they might even be like up on shore for some reason.
I feel like
they're wearing like those space helmets that Sandy wears, and a moth like comes and lands on them, and they're like ah.
Yeah, maybe.
But then it's because it goes from cartoon and then it'll zoom in and it shows what they see. And it's just like this incredibly blown up, zoomed in vision of like a moth's body right up against their face.
Well, I mean, yeah.
And it's like, okay, that low key is horrifying.
It is. Yes, yes. And I don't want to discredit the story right off the bat.
I'm just saying.
But maybe also there's a lot of reflectors on the roads and stuff like that, especially in these country roads. So the red lights, like the red eyes, I mean, that's very explainable.
There's a red flashing stoplight and one of those big mirrors for people to like reverse out of the driveway. And they just see a moth fly past, get reflected, see some light.
Or,
like, oh my God.
Or they're like parked on the side of the street, right? And there's red reflectors behind them. Cars keep coming past, their headlights hit them. They see it in their rearview mirrors and then it disappears. And then another car comes past and they see it come back and they're like, oh my God, it's back.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. I think these people are still alive.
Well, look, I'm not saying that they didn't see Mothman. I just think that they are either exaggerating, they're explaining how they felt and not the actual speed, or straight up lying. Like you were not going over 100 miles an hour on those streets. I have driven on those streets. People can't even hit 55. Like,
we're dishing out some hot takes here right now.
Like, what kind of vehicle were you in? Because if you were going over 100, I have to know.
I have to know. If you grew up in the 60s and had a car that you could regularly go 100 miles an hour through country roads, let us know. Leave a comment.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I wasn't there. Yeah. But its situation is very hard for me to believe.
So back to Roger, Linda, Steve, and Mary as they're driving at acclaimed 100 miles an hour through the country roads. The Mothman was swooping over to them as they kept trying to escape its grasp. Eventually, they drove straight to the Mason County courthouse, which on the way there, they managed to lose its tail. It's kind of...
I mean, that's how you lose a criminal. Somebody's trying...
You go to the courthouse.
Yeah, somebody's chasing you. Somebody's coming after you with their road rage, or they're trying to sex traffic you or something. I don't know. I don't know why people chase other people down on the road.
Especially flying people.
If someone or something is chasing you down, like my first instinct would also be like, I'll just drive them straight to the police. Like,
you know what I picture though on the real side?
And they don't want to go to the police. They know they've got things to hide from the police, so they're going to turn around and leave.
I think Mothman could take, I don't think he's scared.
Mothman reminds me a little bit of Jeepers Creepers.
I was just about to say, that's what I was going to say. This reminds me of the scenes in Jeepers Creepers when he's flying. Like, I can't name a specific one because it's been so long since I've seen it, but I think it's the first one with Justin Long when he's driving down the road at night and you see it like in the distance. Like the camera doesn't focus on it, but
and
it like flies down.
I think we lost him. Oh my God, he's right there.
But like, that's what this reminds me of.
Now I'm going to have to look up and see like the origins of Jeepers Creepers and to see if there's any ties there or not.
There might be. Yeah, I don't know.
Inspired by it or not.
So once they got to the courthouse, the very next day, the Point Pleasant Register printed their account with the now famous headline, "Couple see man-sized bird, ... creature, ... something, ! Just wanted to give the whole.
That was the headline?
Yeah.
Wow, times have changed.
I mean, if I saw that though, like, imagine you're just walking.
You're like reading the news, like.
Or you're walking to work and then all of a sudden you see couple sees creature and you're like, oh my God, that's my hometown. What the fuck? I would pick that up.
Yeah. Couple sees man-sized bird, creature, something. I'd be like, well, what is it?
Yeah. So the story spread quickly, and within days, other residents began coming forward with their own encounters. Some reported seeing the same glowing eyes in the dark woods, while others described a massive flying figure passing overhead at night. The sightings seemed concentrated around that TNT area, and for the next year, it became a magnet for thrill seekers, journalists, and curious locals. People drove out at night with flashlights and rifles, daring each other to find the creature. Even volunteer firemen claimed to have seen a large bird with red eyes while searching the site. These weren't just brief glimpses either. Many witnesses described an overwhelming feeling of dread or nausea in the creature's presence. It wasn't simply a strange bird to them. It felt like something entirely alien to the hills and rivers they knew so well. The waves of sightings continued into December 1967, when tragedy struck with the collapse of the Silver Bridge. This disaster claimed 46 lives and cast a long shadow over the town. In the minds of many, the Mothman sightings and the bridge collapse were linked, cementing the creature's role as a harbinger of doom. And after the tragedy, reports of Mothman abruptly and strangely stopped.
I will say, first of all, it's kind of wild to me that, like, these people went and told the cops what happened and then it got published in the news. I feel like if I went to a police station or a courthouse right now and told them I'm being followed by a Batman creature with red eyes, they would simply put me in a mental health institution, not publish my findings, and then start taking other reports as serious matters. So, like, the fact that this is all, like, going down, like, they're like, yes, this is a criminal investigation. We need all the evidence we can gather. Please speak out if you've seen this man. Like, it seems kind of wild to me that everybody is just accepting it and taking it so seriously right from the get-go.
Again,
And I guess I shouldn't say everybody. Like, I'm sure it wasn't.
well, I think you got to put your head in the mind space of the time.
Yeah.
I think that's what you had Roswell not too long ago. So people are already in this heightened kind of experience.
Yeah.
Bigfoot became popularized
People are
around this
looking
time.
for UFOs all the
Yes,
time right
yeah,
now.
I think it's like, I'm not saying Mothman exists or don't, but just regardless, that's why these stories are very popular, I think, in
That's
the
true.
50s to like the 80s, is because
That's also, I feel like news was really starting to, I mean, news has always been to a point about sensationalism more than about actual news and truth. But I do feel like that has only grown more
Oh,
and
yeah.
more and more and more and more.
oh, especially at this
and
time.
I feel like in this time it was like booming.
You're competing against television. You had all these newspapers. You had all these newspapers that had published the same way for so many years, and now all these people are getting their news from TV. So you have to figure out a way to get around that, to sensationalize, to sell papers. And especially, like, you're going from, your only newspaper was this Point Pleasant Journal. I mean, we saw how small that town is. They had their own newspaper. How much is going on that they're going to write about?
I mean, yeah, I guess you only have so much to say if it's just the town's newspaper. But yeah, I will say, like, it is just wild to me in the first place that it's like, wow, this made headlines. Like, oh my gosh, they took multiple reports from people.
I mean, yeah,
Like,
no, but you're right. Like,
But if I tried to bring up a situation like this now, I'm not saying it wouldn't gain any traction or that no one would believe me, but it would be online or at like a college campus or something
yes,
somewhere.
no, you
Like,
wouldn't get published in the local
It wouldn't be a
newspaper.
local newspaper. It wouldn't be the law enforcement helping me. Like, they would be like, you need to be committed. Like, here's some meds, go lay down. So that alone is just funny to me. But I'm curious to know, I guess you can't ever really know because it's just their word, but the people who came forth with reports of sightings after those headlines were published, how many of those people are just trying to be the next person to get their name in the paper versus
You
they
always have that, yeah.
actually saw something?
And you can never know, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's why some of these stories exist
Or
for so long.
they didn't see anything, but now that they've seen that headline and they're looking for something, they thought that big hawk they saw must have been Mothman.
Yes.
And it's like, well, no, it was just really high up in the sky, so you thought it might have been bigger than it was. Like,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
And we'll talk about it in a little bit, but a lot of these initial stories, like I tried to say that it wasn't that many encounters that came out at first. It was just a few handful. There is a movie and a book that was written a little bit after this called The Mothman Prophecies that kind of, since it is a fictional book, like the dude didn't do anything wrong, but it sensationalized a lot of these claims. So people kind of muddle that with the actual story. So stuff you read online will be like, oh, even before the bridge collapsed, you had thousands of people making these Mothman encounters or whatever. I think the book claims like there was like dozens, but in reality, I think it was like 6 people
Okay.
that claimed to have seen it before even the Silver Bridge collapse. So, I mean, it's just like any other cryptid story. It's taken and eventually it
Goes through the rumor mill, and
Yeah.
then gossip grows, and then exaggerations and hyperboles are fun. And they're dramatic, especially if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
telling a new or younger or more gullible person the story and
Oh,
you
yeah.
want to jazz it up.
And I doubt they were thinking about it at the time, but tourism, it definitely helps the town now. Now we're going to talk about something that you can't really talk about Mothman without covering, but I don't want to put too much into it because a lot of this is kind of hearsay or a little bit of the rumor mill kind of circulating. But to understand why Point Pleasant has become such fertile ground for legends like the Mothman, we need to look further back into its history, specifically to the 18th century and a Shawnee leader known as Chief Cornstalk. Point Pleasant was already a place of bloodshed long before glowing red eyes haunted its skies. In 1774, during a time of rising conflict between Native American tribes and encroaching colonial settlers, the Battle of Point Pleasant took place at the confluence of the Kanawha and Ohio rivers. It was one of the largest battles between Native Americans and the Virginia militia, and many historians consider it the first battle of the American Revolutionary War. The Shawnee, led by Chief Cornstalk, fought fiercely but were ultimately defeated. Cornstalk, respected for his leadership and skill, would later try to maintain peace with the colonists. In 1777, he and his son traveled to Fort Randolph at Point Pleasant to warn American officials that not all native groups would remain neutral. Rather than being treated as allies, Cornstalk and his son were taken hostage.
Sounds about right, unfortunately.
Yep. Days later, after the murder of a soldier outside the fort, an act committed by an unrelated native warrior, white militiamen retaliated by brutally murdering Cornstalk, his son, and other Shawnee being held there. According to the legend, again, this is where it gets kind of wishy-washy. All that was real. That stuff is history. This is where the rumor starts. According to legend, as he lay dying, Chief Cornstalk placed a curse on Point Pleasant. Different versions of the story vary in wording, but the gist remains that the land would remain plagued by misfortune and tragedy for generations to come. Some locals point to the Silver Bridge collapse in 1967 as evidence of this curse's power. Others link the Mothman itself to Cornstalk's dying words, an omen or a spirit born out of the violence of Point Pleasant's past. While historians debate whether Cornstalk actually spoke such a curse, the story has lingered in local memory for centuries, becoming part of the town's haunted identity. In this way, the Mothman legend isn't just a tale of glowing red eyes in the 1960s. It's a part of a much longer thread of Point Place. Fucking that 70s show. I knew I was going to do it once. I'm keeping that in too, because I knew I was going to do that. Point Pleasant, not Point Place. It's part of a much longer thread of Point Pleasant's history, a place where violence, tragedy, and mystery has always seemed pretty close at hand. So I thought that was just pretty interesting. Again, you can't cover Mothman without talking about it because everyone that's going to talk about Mothman is going to talk about that story, and they might sensationalize it and maybe say it's true or not. That's on them. You can decide to believe it if you want. I mean, it's ancient history at this point.
I just love how much it reminds me of the show Parks and Rec and Pawnee, Indiana.
You have no... Yeah, just wait for this.
Like, I was going to say, not just the story of, like, okay, natives and colonists fighting and, oh, well, we're here to keep peace. Well, we're going to take you prisoner. You killed our men. How could we have killed your men? We're literally your prisoners. That was someone else. Well, I'm going to blame you for it. Like, it, and then... the fact that he's like, oh, I'm going to curse your land now. Like, that just all sounds exactly like it's out of an episode of Parks and Rec.
100%. The mural they have at Point Pleasant, I'm not talking shit on Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Oh, there's murals everywhere, and they're very beautiful.
They're gorgeous.
And, like, the art is very well done.
And the history it's telling, I understand. Like, it's good to be told to us specifically because we're the ones that caused whatever disaster or heinous acts were done
Yeah.
at the time.
And it's really cool because it almost is like the town feels like a museum in itself.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're just along walls and buildings throughout. There's all these murals that are just kind of telling the history of the town or the nation or the land itself. So it was really cool, but it is like literally straight out of an episode of Parks and Rec when they have the murals in Pawnee and Leslie Knope is like, yeah, we need to cover this up with a less offensive mural. And like, they like make jokes out of it in that show. But when we were in Point Pleasant, I was like, oh my God, like, this is exactly what it's like.
And maybe someone who lives in Point Pleasant, if you end up listening to this, please let us know if there's like some deeper meaning or something we're not getting. There probably is, so we'd love to know. But no,
yeah,
I did.
I'm assuming it's history, like,
Yes,
and that's
yes.
kind of that's that. But if there's more, I'd love to be enlightened.
Yeah, but there is a statue of Chief Cornstalk at the Point Pleasant, I think, Riverwalk that they have there. So you can check that out. It's pretty cool. So now that we know the origins of Mothman and kind of everything leading up to the Silver Bridge collapse and everything way before that with Chief Cornstalk and what may or may not have been true, let's get into some stories a little further on that involve Mothman. So once the first Point Pleasant sightings made the local paper in November 1966, the town's quiet nights were shattered. People began driving out to the TNT area armed with flashlights, cameras, rifles, all that stuff we mentioned before, and they were hoping to catch a glimpse of this man-sized bird. But while some came back empty-handed, you of course had those that swore they had seen something they couldn't explain. That's what we're going to talk about. The first one is the volunteer fireman's encounter. Just days after the Scarberry-Mallet sighting, two volunteer firemen, Paul Yoder and Benjamin Enox, reported seeing a large bird with red eyes while near the TNT area. They noted that it didn't flap its wings often and it glided silently, and instead it seemed to deliberately keep its distance, kind of different from these other stories where it was pursuing the people that saw it. Both men were apparently familiar with the local wildlife, and they insisted this was unlike any other bird that they've seen. Another story is the one where almost the whole kind of legend is centered around, and that's the Silver Bridge connection. So by 1967, the sightings were still a common topic in town, and on December 15th, the Silver Bridge collapsed during a rush hour that killed 46 people. In the days before the disaster, some residents claimed that they had seen Mothman near the bridge. Whether this was genuine or simply a case of hindsight linking two unrelated events, the collapse cemented the creature's reputation as an omen of doom. Almost immediately after the tragedy, though, like we stated, Mothman sightings stopped almost entirely at Point Pleasant. That leads us a little further down the road to the Chicago wave. So between 2011 and 2019, more than 50 reports came out of the Chicago area describing a black winged humanoid with glowing red eyes. Witnesses included police officers, truck drivers, and airline employees near O'Hare International Airport.
When was this?
2011 to 2019. So you lived there for one of the years.
I lived there for one of those years, and I was at O'Hare Airport like almost every month that year that I lived there.
Did you see Mothman?
I never saw Mothman. I never heard a soul talking about Mothman. It was not in the news that people were seeing Mothman.
Well, we stated that they probably wouldn't put it in the news nowadays.
There were no Mothman whispers.
Well, we have our on-the-field reporter from that one.
So upset that no one in the area told me that apparently we should be looking for Mothman while we were studying. I absolutely would have kept my eyes open.
Well, maybe you didn't see it, but maybe you felt something, because many claimed to feel overwhelming dread when the creature was around or before seeing it, and some experienced dizziness or nausea.
That's just me being alive.
So maybe Mothman is stalking you.
Overwhelming dread, dizziness, and nausea. Yep, I've experienced all 3 of those since the day I was born. I'm on meds for most of them now, but perhaps it was Mothman all along.
Let's say maybe you've just been for your entire life being
The
stalked by
doctors
Mothman.
told me I was chronically ill.
They couldn't figure it out because Mothman's in the background laughing.
God.
I will say, this is a side tangent. When we were at Mothman Festival, I mean, I get this often, so very well could just be something that is my body. But in the heat, in the middle of the festival, I did start to feel very nauseous and just kind of dizzy and disoriented. Maybe he knew we were there getting ready to gather some stuff on this episode.
I did have a couple more lightheaded and dizzy spells this weekend than normal. But I kind of attributed that to, well, it's hot outside and there's a lot of people here.
There are probably natural reasons.
Maybe we're a little bit dehydrated, or maybe the body heat with the natural heat is just a lot for our bodies have already started acclimating to fall. So now that we're in the south and it's warmer, it's a little too much.
Or maybe
it was Mothman.
Yeah, because he's been stalking you for your whole life and you got too close.
I touched his butt, so can he leave me alone now?
She did.
He got what he wanted from
I poked his butt.
So I watched somebody put $1 in his ass crack like it was a piggy bank.
Yes.
That was a good time. Also, in case you didn't know, that's a tradition in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. They have the Mothman statue there. And like that is what you do at the Mothman statue is you touch the butt.
Oh, yeah, there's 2 lines.
There's 2 lines to take photos with the Mothman statue. There's a line to take photos with the front of him, and then there's a line to touch his butt.
So there was one story in here about a missing dog. I just don't want to talk about it.
Why did you even tell me it existed?
Because it's a famous Mothman story, so people are going to want to know it. Look it up.
I'm that person who has to go to doesthedogdie.com before I watch anything. And if I am watching something and there's an animal on screen, if there's even the slightest inkling in my brain that something might happen to that animal, I will pause what I'm watching to go look it up. Because I need to be prepared. And in some cases, I just don't want to watch.
I just don't want to watch.
I will watch a bunch of slasher flicks, and you can murk all the teenagers on Halloween that you want.
But the second a dog goes,
leave the dog alone.
Exactly. So another fun encounter is the 2016 photograph. So nearly 50 years later, in November 2016, a man driving along State Route 2 near Point Pleasant stopped his car to photograph what appeared to be a large winged creature with long legs standing in the trees. The images shown on local news, because of course they were, reignited debate, and some locals took them as proof that Mothman had returned. Others suspected a large bird or an elaborate hoax, but I do have that photo and I want to share that with you. This photo is spooky. Because if you cannot explain it, it's like, okay, well, what the fuck is that? All right, so I got that photo pulled up for you.
It does kind of look like a man bird.
Yeah, that's not, so I can't explain that.
Maybe a wounded bird, or a bird that's carrying something that's kind of trailing behind it a little bit and looks like legs. Because I will say it's like its proportions are off. I don't know, it looks weird.
Yeah. I mean, I see how that photo...
Okay, so he is pretty large too. But when a bird is high in the sky, like I feel like it's really hard to determine size from that far away. Especially, like, I don't know how big that tree is either, so it might not be quite as big as it looks.
That's true. That's true. It could be a perspective thing. It is in black and white, too, so it's kind of hard to make out.
It looks kind of dark out, like maybe the picture was taken at dusk or something.
It is spooky, though. If I saw that and took a photograph of that, I'd probably want to show somebody and be like, hey, what do you think of this?
Yeah. My brain would tell me, I don't know, it's probably a bald eagle or a hawk or like, I don't know, maybe a vulture or something. Maybe it's a vulture and it's carrying like a piece of dead
I think that's
animal
ultimately
like that's probably the answer.
But it is just interesting.
it is more fun to say, I think I saw Mothman.
Yeah, I mean,
Especially if you saw it right outside Point Pleasant, then it's only natural to believe it must be the Mothman. He lives there after all.
it's true.
That's where he's from.
It's his hometown.
Yeah, that's where he was born. From
West
a curse.
Virginia.
Take him home.
Don't take too much. We'll get a copyright strike.
Mothman's home.
There we go. So other stories involving Mothman are kind of just a lot of online back and forth. So you can find almost an endless amount of stories on Reddit or other online forums. Yeah, many of them are consistent, I will say, talking about tall, dark humanoid figures with, again, the massive wings and the glowing eyes, and many accounts emphasize how quickly the creature appears and disappears, sometimes watching silently before vanishing into the night. So again, I mean, are they consistent because they're seeing the same things, or are they consistent because we all know the Mothman legend at this
I was
point?
going to say, is it consistent because you've already read about it elsewhere, so now you're making your own account and you want to keep it consistent with the others?
Yes.
Or not even in a malicious sense. Like, I'm not even saying that everybody who talks about this is like, they know they're making something up. It could be that they fully believe it, and I don't discredit that. But it's like, when you are looking for something, you're more likely to see it.
Yeah.
When you know what something is supposed to look like, you're more likely to see that version of it. Or if you don't, you'll tell yourself that's not it. I don't know. I think it's more one of those like law of attraction, mass hysteria, jumping on a bandwagon type of things.
Oh, 100%.
Especially at this point with the amount of stuff online I'm sure you can find about it. It's like a lot of people online are fully aware that they're just making up bullshit.
Yeah.
And even the people who aren't, it's like, yeah, but are you subconsciously just repeating an idea? Like, did you remember reading about this as a kid and then you just told yourself it was a memory that you actually had the encounter? And you told yourself that 3 or more times, so now it really is a memory? Because that's how memories and brains work, you guys. I didn't know if you know that, but if you just tell yourself something enough, or if you give yourself any sort of like evidence, or you don't even have to say it's as strong of a word as evidence, it could just be some sort of backup, something to back up whatever you're trying to claim. And if you just tell yourself it's true enough times, your brain will rewire and recreate your memories to match what you're telling yourself is true.
I mean, yeah.
So that could very well happen.
Which we're going to kind of get into a little bit of that now, because after we've gone over some stories, now we're going to talk about some theories involving Mothman. And what could this creature truly be?
A sex god.
A sex god?
I mean, that's what people think he is.
No, he is, yeah. I didn't know if you said god or guy.
Same thing.
Yeah.
God's a guy, right?
Doesn't have to be. So the first section we have here is misidentified wildlife. So some people claim that the Mothman could be sandhill cranes and herons, or maybe even owls. So one of the most widely accepted skeptical explanations is that Mothman sightings were actually encounters with large migratory birds. Sandhill cranes can stand nearly as tall as a human, with wingspans exceeding 6 feet, and have distinct patches of reddish skin around their eyes. When illuminated by headlights at night, those patches could appear to glow red, especially if the observer was already on edge or under the influence. No.
Hey, and I think I already talked about this earlier this season, but when I was younger and we were camping with Girl Scouts, we thought we were being terrorized.
Oh,
and
yes,
we were
you did,
like,
yeah.
there's a man out there. Like, there's someone out there.
And it was a heron, right?
And yeah, it was a blue heron, I think.
They're
It was either a heron or a crane, and they are very big. I mean, they were as big as us, if not bigger. And we were kids at the time, but
Speaking of
still,
the blue herring,
like, we definitely thought that there was like a serial killer outside stalking us in our tent. And it turned out to just be a very large bird that we don't have in our own backyards all the time. So we weren't quite prepared to see one that big.
speaking of the blue herring, particularly the great blue herring,
Wait,
is
herring? is a fish.
Sorry, heron.
Okay.
That was my... So speaking of the heron, particularly the great blue heron, that one's a pretty good candidate for this theory because they have a similar wingspan, they have long legs, and they are hunched and have a human-like silhouette when standing. And in low light, their flight could look a little eerie and unnatural, especially if you've not seen them frequently. Another option are owls. So Joe Nickel, a noted paranormal investigator and skeptic, has argued that large owls could account for many Mothman reports. The barred owl and barn owl both have reflective eyes that can appear red in artificial light. Their silent flight and sudden appearances could easily startle people driving at night. If an owl were perched on a building or a tree stump and startled by a passing car, it might seem to launch into pursuit, giving the impression of being chased by it. Which that's just, honestly, even if I was being chased by an owl, I'd be scared.
Honestly, that would scare me more than being chased by Mothman because birds freak me out. Mothman, even if I couldn't explain what that creature is, I'd be like, well, it's a creature. Like, of course he's chasing me. Like, I think my brain would just immediately like rewrite and be like, okay, we're in a horror movie now. Like, life is sci-fi, adapt. Like, I think in that type of situation, I would just be running on adrenaline, and I don't know. I'd be more confused about the creature than scared about him chasing us. I think I'd expect him to chase us. If an owl just started chasing after me in my car, I would be sobbing with fear.
Yeah.
I would not know what to do. Because why? Why would a bird be chasing me? That's fucked up. I don't trust birds. What does he want with me?
What does he want with me?
I'm not getting out of the car until he's gone.
So I like those theories. I could definitely see that it being some sort of misidentified bird.
I really could see the blue heron because I'm telling you, we had that experience. We're like, oh my God, we're being terrorized by Jeepers Creepers right now. A terrifying vampire bat, human serial killer. And then we finally braved up to go outside and look, and it's like, oh, it's a giant bird. That's unexpected. We're like, I didn't know birds could be that size and shape. And then we all thought, well, I guess flamingos. Yeah, you just don't think about local and woodland birds being that way. I think people often think of a cardinal, a blue jay. The biggest birds they ever really think of are a bald eagle or a hawk, maybe a vulture. We forget about things like cranes and herons if we don't actively live near a creek or a swamp where they are. So that really tracks for me because, I mean, even the bird expert or the science guy or whatever was like, yeah, birds like the blue heron literally has the same silhouette as a man if you just cast it in shadows.
Which, I like that theory. So another group of theories I have here are mutations and contamination theories. So some locals have suggested that the Mothman could have been mutated by, well, the local TNT area. Again, during World War II, the plant produced large quantities of TNT and other munitions, and it is believed that some of the byproducts seeped into the surrounding soil and water. While there's no scientific evidence to support the idea that such contamination could create a winged humanoid, the concept has persisted in local lore. And a more conspiratorial variation suggests that the creature was a product of secret military or government experiments conducted in or near the TNT area.
We're really getting back into Project Montauk now.
Oh yeah, this theory draws on the fact that abandoned military facilities have long been rumored sites for covert research. Proponents argue that the Mothman sightings may have been an escaped experimental subject or a test gone wrong.
This is where he gets his superhero origin story.
Exactly, yeah. Supervillain, I'd probably at that point.
Maybe anti-hero.
Yeah, anti-hero, definitely.
He's going to join the X-Men.
I kind of like those theories, honestly. I mean, when it comes to like conspiracy type kind of theories for it, I think that that's kind of like the most grounded, is maybe the government was doing something or radiation to a creature caused something.
I would love to believe that as a writer and as someone who loves fun stories. But as someone who knows how radiation poisoning and that stuff works, that's not what happens.
It can. There's dogs in Chernobyl that have been radiated, and now their whole DNA strand has changed because they're radiated, but they live and they thrive.
Yeah, but they're still dogs. They've changed and they've evolved and they've had some mutations, but overall they're still dogs. They didn't grow wings, they didn't start mutating into a human, they didn't completely change into a different already existing species.
No, but that's just because we know what they were irradiated with. If the government was doing something with types of radiation to try to change DNA strands, we don't know what they're capable of.
I guess. I will say, we grew up in a town less than a mile away from the site of an old radioactive, like, dumping ground and waste pond, and there was, like, a whole radioactive lake there, and they cleaned it up, like, decades and decades ago, put new soil down, redid the land, let grass grow, came in and re-landscaped it all again. They were gonna build on it, and then they did testing on it, and it's still like they still needed another 50 or 60 years or something before it was gonna be safe for people to live there. And when I was in college, I did a whole research project on that land because right after the chemical things were stopped, before they did all the cleanup and before they really realized how hazardous all of these like radioactive swamp lakes were, there was a school over there, and there was also a what at the time was called an insane asylum, and people from those buildings were affected by all the chemical poisoning and radiation and all the runoff in the ground and stuff, and so a lot of them had fertility issues. Their kids were born with a lot of health problems or things like blindness, or I think there was one report of like a child was born with a third eye or
moth
a third
wings.
arm, but they were all still human features. They did have mutations and they did have health problems, and there were things going wrong with these people and their health and then their reproduction and the next line of their blood and everything. Like, there were definitely repercussions of having people be raised and living on this land, but it just wasn't anywhere near that extreme.
Again, you're talking about it, though, in an uncontrolled environment. If the government could figure out a way to harness these radiations and these mutations, and why the Mothman isn't necessarily even a good mutation. Like, if that did happen to somebody, I would still consider that like a freak problem that radioactivity has caused, not like a good thing to be like.
No, it reminds me of Wicked. Spoilers, but it reminds me of Wicked when the wizard's like, all right, now turn these monkeys into birds. And then she does, and she's like, oh my God, why would you make me do that? This is awful.
I mean, yeah. So like, I don't know. I kind of like that theory. I like the whole, maybe the government was trying to make something in that
trying to
TNT
make
area.
Super soldiers.
Yeah, I mean,
like in Marvel.
I don't put that past anything. And maybe Mothman got out and the whole bridge collapse was a distraction so that, hey, collapse the bridge while we take care of Mothman.
Yeah. Keep everybody occupied. Stop letting them put Mothman in the headlines. Make them talk about anything else.
Because like, maybe what if it was something that just happened in the 60s and everything else after that, it has been like hyperbolized and
That's true.
blown up. And that's why the changing.
And we know the government is okay with sacrificing small, poor towns for the greater hidden secret projects that are going to eventually bring them money or war gains.
100%. So like, and at this time, again, the height of the Cold War.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's not like this was downtown LA or New York City. It was a really small town in the Midwest that it's like, unless you live there, no one knows about it.
Yep. So I'm like, I don't know. I kind of like that.
All right. You're convincing me. I'll lean in.
And again, I like it because you got to kind of pick and choose, I feel like, with a lot of these conspiracy theories where it's like, what is the actual truth and then what has been kind of just blown out of proportion? Because they all have those stages. So it's like, maybe this was the shred of the sliver of truth.
There's a nugget in there. there's something.
A few other fun theories I want to throw out there. I don't think these ones have as much credibility, but I like them because of how much they kind of tie in. Is the first one is known as the Thunderbird. So Native American legends throughout North America include stories of the Thunderbird, a massive bird capable of creating thunder and lightning with its wings. In some traditions, thunderbirds were omens of significant events, sometimes protective and sometimes destructive. Folklorists see parallels between the myths and the Mothman story. Both involve giant winged beings associating with the foreboding of supernatural influence. So I liked that because of the whole Cornstalk theory. It's like,
Apparently there's another Native American legend that might tie into that. Like, ooh, if Cornstalk really did try to curse the land, and there really is this cultural belief already about this Thunderbird, maybe that's the spirit that is helping invoke the curse. Like, okay.
Yeah, no, I liked that one.
Yeah.
Another kind of cool one is ultra-terrestrial or interdimensional entity. So John Keel in the Mothman Prophecies, we kind of mentioned him earlier, or at least the Mothman Prophecies. He is like the main guy when it comes to what made this explode.
He made it mainstream.
Yes, and he kind of
took it from local newspaper to worldwide.
Yeah, and he kind of like just tied a bow around it. Like he kind of had all these mismatched stories, kind of an unconcluded, like nothing really matched or connected, but he put that puzzle together and was like, this is the story.
Okay.
Again, it is fictional. Like the book is a work of fiction. He did do real research for it, but the book itself is a fictional account. But in the Mothman Prophecies, he advanced the idea that Mothman might not be a physical creature at all, but rather what he called an ultra-terrestrial, a being from another dimension or reality interacting with ours in ways we barely understand. Keel tied Mothman sightings to a lot of UFO reports and Men in Black encounters that happened in the region during this whole Mothman craze. He suggested that they were all part of the same phenomenon, and that the government knew a little bit more than they were leading on about this whole thing. So I do kind of like that, because I like the whole interdimensional entity just bubble in its own. Like, I like that thought.
I do like the theory that there are alternate dimensions or realities or universes or whatever you want to call it. I like the idea that there are other places parallel or on top of ours that we can't necessarily see or feel, or we could feel it but not see it, or something like that. Like, I do kind of believe in that.
Oh yeah,
because there are energies on Earth that we can't quite explain with science.
Yeah, and I mean, you got deja vu and just all these other just weird things that it's like, I don't know, I feel like it all does play into some grander thing that we don't quite
we haven't figured it out yet as a collective.
Yeah. So I like that one.
Not we, you, and me.
No, we never will.
We're never gonna figure that out. We are not the people.
So I don't like really bringing these up in a lot of these because it just kind of is a stupid out for many cryptids. But
aliens.
No.
Oh no.
No, I mean, I'm not talking. He could be an alien. Like that's just
he
that's
was
the theory.
linked to UFO sightings.
I was about to say, yeah. He could be an
too.
alien, but there's not much to that theory besides that
he's an alien.
He very well could be. Who fucking knows? No, but it's mass hysteria. Once the Scarberry-Mallet story hit the local paper, it spread quickly through Point Pleasant and surrounding towns. And as more people talked about the Mothman, it's likely that ordinary encounters with animals, or even just the smallest strange noise in the night, were reinterpreted through the lens of the legend. This feedback loop, known as mass hysteria or collective delusion, has been documented in pretty much every other cryptid case, such as the Jersey Devil sightings in New Jersey or the Mad Gasser reports in Illinois. Again, I don't really like those theories, though, because they're an easy out. You can just add it to everything. Like, I'm not saying it's wrong. Like, that very well could be the answer, but it's just like, why talk about it? Because every mystery could theoretically have been mass hysteria.
Yeah, I get not wanting to give that a lot of credit, but I also I feel like the term mass hysteria is also very easily thrown out. Like, people are like, oh, that's not a real thing. Or like, that doesn't really happen. Or they think it's something that it's not, where they're like, well, I'm not hysterical. And it's like, that's not what it means. Like, just because you're calm right now doesn't mean you're not experiencing a form of mass hysteria. I think that mass hysteria is a very common and prevalent thing among humans and community. And it's not always a bad thing. It doesn't always lead to consequences or to conspiracy theories or to witch trials or whatever. But I absolutely think that mass hysteria is more of a real deal than a lot of people give it credit for.
I think it's flipped. I mean, we maybe I'm wrong, or maybe it's just the way that our algorithms work on our social media, but I think mass hysteria is thrown around too often to be like, this event was mass hysteria, and everyone just believes it from a scientific perspective instead of actually looking into certain events.
Okay.
That's why I don't like including it in this like aspect.
I don't agree in using it as like a case closed kind of term.
That's kind of what I'm talking about, though. That's why I don't like adding it as a theory.
Should be used as like okay, well, we're not going to do more research, find out why this happened, or find out how to prevent it in the future. We're not going to blame anybody. No one's going to be held accountable.
Yeah, it just did. Like, it just happened.
Yeah, I don't like it as like a scapegoat reasoning. To just be like, oh, well, we'll just call it mass hysteria, and that way we can all move on. But I do just think that, like, as a concept in general, it's more prevalent and people realize.
Oh, yeah. No, I think, but that's why I was like, it's kind of based on our algorithms, because I do a lot of research for the show, so I'm not going to lie. My TikTok, Facebook, all those algorithms are fucked up because of all the stuff that I have to research for this.
Just be getting all kinds of mysterious, creepy stuff
from right-wing conspiracy theorists. I'd be getting stuff from right-wing conspiracy theorists, from left-wing conspiracy theorists, from conspiracy theorists in other countries that have, like, it's a mess. So, like, I'm being served a mess. So that's why I was like, maybe it's the difference, because in my sphere, everybody's screaming like, no, it's not massive. It's what you're saying. Like, that doesn't exist. So I think there needs to be a middle ground with that. But the reason I don't like including it in this is because, like you said, it's not a bookend to me. I don't want to just cap it off and be like, okay, mass hysteria, end of story. And that's what, with a lot of these conspiracies, the actual scientific community does.
Yeah, and I will say, I don't think that it should be end of story. It should be, okay, this looks like a case of mass hysteria. Let's look into this further with that added lens, knowing that we are pretty sure this is what's going on here.
And that's, I think, a good...
And look into it further from there. Why is this going on? What started it? Who was the original observer or whatever? Like, what... Look into it further and figure it out from there. Maybe there's still other solutions that need to be put in place. Sometimes people do just need an answer, get their closure, say, all right, that's it. We're end of story, move on, we're done. But I don't think that that's often the answer for those cases.
And that's pretty much it for theories. So you can pick your favorite one or decide on how you want to believe in Mothman. There's many different ways, as we just found out. And now we're going to talk a little bit about Mothman in pop culture and some about the Mothman Festival. So the most famous literary appearance is John Keel's The Mothman Prophecies, which came out in 1975, which weaves eyewitness reports with Keel's own investigations and paranormal theories. The book blends the true events and speculative narrative. The book's blend of true events and speculative narrative gave Mothman a new dimension, elevating it from a West Virginia curiosity to a paranormal figure with a global intrigue. In 2002, the story made its way to the big screen with the film adaptation named after the book, starring Richard Gere and Laura Linney. The movie took creative liberties, framing Mothman as a supernatural presence tied to the Silver Bridge collapse. They were really focused on that, where the book was more of an overarching story, which I can see why. I mean, if you're going to hyper-focus on the movie, yes, like that makes sense. While not a box office smash, it did introduce the legend to an entirely new audience and gave Point Pleasant a pretty big tourism boost, as we saw.
Yeah.
Mothman has also popped up in TV shows like The X-Files, Mystery Hunters, and BuzzFeed Unsolved, as well as video games such as Fallout 76, where the creature appears as an eerie in-game cryptid lurking in the Appalachian wilderness. From comic books to podcasts, the Red Eye figure continues to inspire both horror and humor, which is a perfect area for us to cover it.
Yeah. Also, that's just a side note. Horror and humor go together
Like,
so
oh my gosh,
well.
yes.
I think more horror movies need to lean into comedy, and then they would do better at box office. I'm not saying everyone, like sometimes,
yeah,
yes,
you can have
take
the true
yourself
horror,
very seriously. Sometimes comic relief feels wrong in the moment, and I get that. But like, I do think that for the most part, a lot of horror movies would be a little better, or they would at least have done better, like financially or critic review wise and stuff, if they lean in.
Yeah.
Be campy, be funny. People like it.
People like it.
Also, it's real. Like when I'm gonna let you know, if I'm in a life or death situation, I am absolutely going to be making some inappropriate joke that's not helpful, because that's what I do when I'm nervous. Like that's real. Some horrors are too scripted and too intense. It's like, it's like, come on. In real life, you would be scrambling. You wouldn't be running so gracefully. Like, yell at yourself a little and be like, oh, come on, bitch, get it together.
Yeah, no, I think horror and humor is a great blend of the two.
And like dark comedies are really good when you take a movie that's almost strictly a comedy, but it's just like really gory and kind of messed up and like, oh, this is kind of twisted if you really think about it, but like they just do it in the style of a comedy through and through. Those movies are always great. We should make horror comedy about Mothman. He can be a playboy.
Do you have like $30,000? Because that's like minimum.
No. But I bet I could get a costume from Amazon.
I couldn't even, I was trying to hold in the laugh and it came out as like a squeak. What the? You want to? Why would we even waste our time? I'm not saying it has to be.
Oh my God.
I'm not saying it has to be Hollywood budget or anything, but I don't want an Amazon costume.
You're like, at least find a cosplayer who knows what they're doing.
Dude, it's something better than that. Outside of the media, there's also something called the Mothman Festival, and outside of that, where the festival is held, Point Pleasant, is also home to the Mothman Museum of Oddities, which we didn't get to do, unfortunately, because
the line was like 2 blocks long, and every time we came back to look, it was getting longer.
Yeah, so if you go to Mothman Festival, go a day early so you can go to the museum.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do next year.
Yeah, either go a few days early or plan to stay an extra day or 2 or something. Because if you want to go to the museum during the festival,
it's not happening.
Will be
that's your whole day.
The only thing you're doing is standing in line and going to that museum. If you even get in.
Yeah.
I am sure there were some people who waited in line
and didn't
all day and then did not make it to the doors before they closed.
Yeah. So if there's one place where the legend comes alive every year, it's the Mothman Festival in Point Pleasant, where the legend started. The festival started in 2002, and it began as a way to draw visitors to the town and celebrate its most famous local mystery. What began as a small gathering has grown into a massive weekend event, attracting over 10,000 people annually. And I can guarantee that number was topped this year.
Yeah, we overheard somebody at the festival this weekend talking about how it's so packed, there's gotta be at least 20,000 people here.
The festival is part folklore conference, part street fair. It's honestly really cool. There are guest lectures by cryptozoologists and authors, tours of the TNT area, screenings of documentaries, and meet and greets with original witnesses. The streets are just filled with food vendors, craft booths, and live music, while Mothman-themed merch, shirts, mugs, plush dolls, and even Mothman droppings candies can fly off the shelves. One of the festival's biggest draw is the, of course, 12-foot stainless steel Mothman statue, unveiled in 2003. With its chrome-plated body, outstretched wings, and piercing red eyes, it's become a must-snap selfie spot for visitors. The Mothman Museum, located just steps from the statue, stays open year-round, offering exhibits on the original sightings, newspaper clippings, props from the 2002 film, and memorabilia from decades of fascination. For Point Pleasant, the festival is more than a weekend of fun. It is a major economic driver and a source of community pride. For fans and curiosity seekers, it's a chance to immerse themselves in one of America's strangest and most enduring legends. And I gotta say, it was just a great time. We'll talk about it a little more because I gotta get to the conclusion in free talk, but it's just such a cool vibe.
It really was very fun. And I will say, the community, you could see so many people at this event were wearing shirts that said volunteer.
Oh,
that
yeah.
said, like,
Event staff. Yep,
high
yep.
school event staff. Like, there so many people in this town come together to help make the festival happen, and they're volunteering their time, and they're helping to make sure everybody's taken care of. They're giving out water or fans to people who need it in the heat, and that's awesome to see.
No, it's great. It is great.
Because I do feel like, as a whole, humanity has kind of lost a lot of its community sense over the years. So it's nice when you get to see that happen, and everybody's not necessarily looking at it like it's a chore. They're having a good time doing it, and they're happy to be doing it.
Yeah. No, definitely. Especially, we came from a town that had a local fair, so I know how important it is to these towns.
Yeah.
So more than half a century after the first red-eyed figure appeared in the dark backroads of West Virginia, the Mothman remains one of America's most enduring mysteries. What began as a handful of strange encounters in a small river town has grown into a legend that spans states, decades, and even countries. For the residents of Point Pleasant, the events of 1966 and 1967 were real, frightening, and unforgettable. The fear was not just about seeing something unnatural, it was about not knowing why it was there or what it meant. And then came the Silver Bridge collapse, a tragedy so devastating that it seemed impossible not to connect the two. Whether Mothman truly became an omen of disaster or the link was forged only in the hindsight, the pairing has become inseparable in the public imagination. Over time, the Mothman became more than just a strange creature in the woods. It became a mirror for our own human fears and fascinations. To some, it's a cautionary tale about how panic and rumor can spread through a community. To others, it's a story about the limits of our understanding. A reminder that the world still holds secrets that science and reason can't yet fully explain. Point Pleasant itself has embraced the legend. The Mothman Festival draws thousands each year, blending serious folklore discussion with a tongue-in-cheek celebration of the town's most famous resident. The Mothman Museum curates eyewitness reports, original clippings and props, and it preserves both the history and myth for future generations. The gleaming steel statue in town stands as both a tourist attraction and a statement. The Mothman belongs here, whether real or imagined. The persistence of the legend says something about us as a people. Even in the age of high-resolution cameras, satellite surveillance, and instant fact-checking, we want there to be mysteries lurking at the edges of our understanding. Mothman endures because it straddles that fine line between fear and fascination, between it could be real and it's just a story. It reminds us that sometimes the unknown is more powerful than any answer could be. Maybe Mothman was a bird. Maybe it was a government experiment gone wrong. Maybe it was a supernatural messenger trying to warn us before disaster struck. Or maybe it's a legend we've kept alive because we like having something unexplainable to believe in. One thing is certain. On a dark, lonely road, deep in the hills of West Virginia, when the wind cuts through the trees and the shadows seem to shift just out of sight, it's easy to imagine two glowing red eyes watching from the edge of the woods. And in that moment, whether or not the Mothman is real, it doesn't matter. So, do you believe in Mothman? A little louder for the mic.
No. And I'm so ashamed.
I'm so ashamed.
Look, I am the person I want to believe in things like Bigfoot and Mothman and thin liminal spaces between life and death or this universe and the next or whatever. I want to believe in all this kind of cool, crazy, sci-fi sounding shit that could be possible. But I don't. I want to because I think it would make life better if things like that were real. It's like that would be cool. Like that would be more interesting. That would at least excuse some of the shit that goes on in this earth because at least now I know there's bigger issues out here that the government may be researching. Like, I don't know. I want to believe in all that stuff, but in my bones and in my heart,
You're like, nah.
I am a cynic who is older than my years, and I'm just like, look, if you don't have the physical proof that I can see, then I don't think it's real.
No, I mean, that's fair. I think that's why this show works, is you're a little more skeptical than I am, and I'm a little more, whether or not I truly believe it in my brain, my heart is more open to believe a lot of this stuff. Because do I think Mothman is around today? No. But I do personally love the government theory of sometime in the 60s in the mountains of West Virginia, in a forgotten military base, they were working on some sort of mutation to, like you said, super soldier or cure for something, and something got fucked up. This creature got out. Maybe it was just a human that somehow could fly, like barely. Like this thing is like literally like it was screeching. Maybe it's literally screaming for help if it's in pain. The government finds it, they take care of it. But like I said, the Silver Bridge collapse. They needed something. They're like, we can't just send in fucking an elite hunting squad to go take this thing down. Like we need a big distraction, something to get the town's mind off of this. They took care of it, and then from there it just blew up. I like that. That's the theory I'm gonna go with.
I do think out of all of the more conspiratorial sounding theories and the less cynical sounding theories, that is the one that's the most believable to me.
Yeah, like when it comes into that,
just
like
because
conspiratorial.
It's like, okay, well, I don't trust the government. And I do know that war is one of their biggest motivators for creating new sciencey stuff.
Yep.
Maybe not so much the cure for something, unfortunately. But new weapons, they love that shit. So turning a human into a weapon, especially if it was like a prisoner of war that they were experimenting on, they're like, nope, we got to go catch that guy. We can't let that news get out.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, I could believe that.
And that's why you had the Men in Black and all these UFO theories, like, because the government's great at that. When something like this happens, it's all about misinformation. So you put out all these
misdirection.
UFOs and all this other stuff just to
confuse them.
Like,
overwhelm them with a bunch of other rumors too.
So nothing can be true.
They get more cynical and skeptical themselves, or they just get so confused that they're like, I can't pay attention to any of this.
Exactly.
I don't know what's going on.
Our government still does that and that's not even like they do that to just like normal everyday issues.
Yeah, that's what still goes on now, today.
Anyway,
you don't even have to watch the news. Just go on Facebook.
So that's the mystery then. We're going to move on to date night debrief and some free talk. My question for today is, how did we like the Mothman Festival?
I liked it a lot. We're going to go back next year.
Yes, we got some good food there. We got some nice new shirts. We got our sign that you can see.
Yeah. I got my Live, Laugh, Lurk Mothman.
Yes, I love it, honestly. It's super nice. And a lot of the stuff there wasn't that expensive. It's a lot of local artists.
Yeah,
so
it's a lot of like homemade, personally crafted stuff. Yeah, we got some merch, got some fun Mothman and Bigfoot stuff. And
yeah, good music. We met some cool people, met some cool dogs, lots of dogs.
Lots of cosplayers with awesome costumes, and I don't know if cosplayers.
I mean, yes, costumes is what it is, but they're above and beyond what you would think of when you hear costume.
Yeah.
It's way cooler than that. They've
We were
put way
talking
more
about
effort
it
into
while we were there, where it's like, I want to say I like your costume, but then I'm like, I feel like that's not.
It doesn't do it
like
justice.
Something you say to a kid on Halloween. These people are artists.
Yeah, like this is art.
It's like, I like your work. What you've done with yourself today.
And it's super inclusive. And when I say that, I don't mean, like, again, we're not very political. I don't mean all like, well, wherever the hell you want to call it. I mean inclusive in just like the fandoms. Like they had a Star Wars booth.
Yeah.
They had a Fallout booth. Like there's
Mothman, there's Bigfoot.
Whatever the hell is a hodag. I don't know what there was like 4 booths to that.
There was
like
a whole
cryptid.
like Labubu booth.
So like
they had Pokemon. Like there was a lot of just fun, nerdy fandom stuff.
Yeah. So even
on.
if you're like, I don't give a fuck about Mothman. If you like weird stuff or just kind of nerdy stuff like we do, go there.
If you like a Renaissance fair, if you like a Star Wars or a Comic-Con type of thing, I'm sure you would have plenty of fun at Mothman Fest too.
Yeah, and we're gonna try to go there next year and stay at the campsite in Point Pleasant. If we can book, if you're planning as well, book it early.
Yeah.
Everything sells out very quickly, so we're gonna honestly be looking tonight or tomorrow just to see.
We gotta you gotta book that stuff out in advance because, like we said at the beginning of the episode, it's a small town.
Yes, it is a small town.
So when 20,000+ extra folks come to stay for the weekend, there's not a lot of beds.
Nope, not a lot of parking either.
Not a lot of places for them to go. So most people have to stay somewhere out of town and then drive in and out each day for the festival.
Yeah, we unfortunately had to stay like an hour out. So, I mean, we spent a decent amount there, but we didn't stay like the whole fest.
Yeah, and we made a good time out of it. We camped out at Hocking Hills, which is here in Ohio. It's not that far. It was about an hour from the festival. It's about 2.5 hours or 3 hours from our house.
Yeah, so it wasn't bad at all. We love Hocking Hills.
It really wasn't far. And yeah, we love Hocking Hills. We love camping. It's cheaper than a hotel also.
$50 a night.
So gotta love a KOA. But yeah, I do think next time we're gonna try to be a little bit closer to the action and be there for longer too, and just get to experience a little bit more of it. This year's trip was a little bit more impromptu. I found out about this festival, I think, in like May. And we were talking about how maybe we want to go, trying to see if other people wanted to go. Like, it really was not a set in stone plan until a few weeks before.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it was just such late planning that we're like, all right, well, there's really no hotels or anything. Like, there's nothing available nearby because we waited to the last possible second to try to go to this fest.
But it was a good time. So I definitely recommend it.
And hey, it's free to go.
It's free to attend.
Because it's just a big, like, street fair, basically, in the town of Point Pleasant. Like, it's just a couple of different blocks of the town are closed off and set up with all these vendors and music and events, and then they have the river walk and a little dock on the water set up with a stage, and it's really cool.
Yeah, and it's a very beautiful town too. I mean, West Virginia is beautiful. Do you have any other free talk? Our merch. Duh.
Yeah.
I said we were going to talk about it. I'll stand up for those watching so you can see the back, but all of this is also available on mysterydatepodcast.com. Under the shop, or you could just go to mysterydatepodcast.com/merch. That'll take you there as well. All of these designs are available. The beautiful Bigfoot Bigfoot on strike. It's got a mystery date on the sleeve representing there. And then I got our mystery couple design. I'll show you real quick. You are just ass to the camera right now. I'll cut that.
I looked up and I was like, oh, that's not the angle you want.
Well, I might cut that whole thing. So you might not see the mystery couple design, but
go to our website. And you can see our merch that we're wearing up close.
Yes, mysterydatepodcast.com/merch, or you can just go to our podcast and go to the shop tab. It's all under there. We'll also post all of our future designs to Facebook so you guys can check it out. Every purchase you guys make directly helps the show. It keeps every episode going, and that's a direct line to say, hey, we appreciate what you do. So it's a great way to show your support.
And they're really comfy.
Yeah, this hoodie's great. I love
It's
this.
super comfy.
Other than that, thank you guys so much for joining us, and be sure to come back every other week for a brand new episode and a brand new mystery.
We hope you enjoyed the lore of Mothman. And be sure to tune in next episode. And remember, you can email us love letters or episode ideas to our email, mysterydatepodcast@gmail.com. And if you are sending an episode idea, please put that in the subject line so that we can find it easily.
And we would also love to hear some spooky stories from your guys' personal life or mysteries that you've experienced. So head over to our website, again, www.mysterydatepodcast.com, and you can leave us a voice message to maybe be listened to on a future episode. I still think that would be cool.
I love that you said www.
Yeah, I don't know. It's classic.
Just, I know. I was going to say, I feel like I haven't heard somebody say that in years.
It's definitely not needed. You can just type in mysterydatepodcast.com and it'll take you right there. And also be sure to share this podcast with your friends or even your enemies and give it a like, a comment. Every little thing you guys do helps boost this in the algorithm and gets our name out there and allows the show to grow. So it means a lot.
And follow us on social media for more updates on the show and our life. Some more updates on the Mothman Festival from this past weekend. Definitely be on the socials, so check that out at Mystery Date Podcast everywhere.
Yep, on all socials. And I think that's all. So be safe and have a great rest of your day or night.
And remember,
Every good mystery deserves a date. Bye.